right? But the real subject at the moment is the self that's having that experience, right? So there's two parts of me that enables me to have a self-awareness, and that's the subjective side, thinking of who I am and having all these concepts, and that's what gives me my self-consciousness, right? Because I'm conscious of myself under all these characteristics, right? And as a self-consciousness, I end up meeting other self-consciousnesses, right? And by the way, this is the intentional stance that Daniel Dennett talks about. This is the le regard that Jean-Paul Sartre talks about. I am only as a result of my being seen by another. Well, I have a self-consciousness because my other and I are me thinking about myself, right? So I've got that self-consciousness, but also when I'm talking with you guys, right? All you folks have a self-consciousness, and we meet one another, and we want to impress one another. If you think about it, what's my job? My job is to try to be the best professor you've ever had in your whole experience. Make this course the most interesting course you've ever had. That's kind of a stiff requirement to try to do that. But I do my best, right? It's a really important subject matter. Because this is, as Steve Martin says, we've studied geometry and history and things, and when you finish the course, you forget all about it. But philosophy will screw you up for the rest of your life, right? That's a joke. But that's Steve Martin. Steve Martin? Steve Martin. Okay. So anyway, I'm trying to change your mind about things. I'm trying to help you along what I think of as an evolutionary route you're supposed to go along. It's kind of like when Microsoft sends you the message, time for an update. No, I don't want an update. But no, you have to have the update. And so it updates your computer, and now look at all these new things that you've got in your new update. I hate all of them. I didn't want. You can't go back. Right? So they make you change. And you're constantly. Well, how often does Microsoft make you change, update your stuff? Every week practically, right? And eventually they'll get it to the point where your memory is so full of all the updates that you need a new computer because you can't upload any more updates, right? Well, if we think of ourselves as evolving, right, becoming, every moment you're changing somewhat, whether you're thinking of it as cells or neural development or learning a new vocabulary or anything of that sort, you're changing. So your self-consciousnesses, and I'm a self-consciousness, and when we meet, it seems for Hegel that one of us has to dominate the other. And so this section is referred to often as the master-servant. Some translations have master. So this is kind of neat. In being certain of myself as myself, I am doing something. And it is by doing this that I really am certain of my being alive. However, this certainty also has its truth in something else. A self-consciousness is or exists for a self-consciousness. Need two. You need two in order to be a self-consciousness. So Hegel says, I am conscious of myself. I'm in the introduction. I'm not actually in that section. I am conscious of myself only in a kind of second-person form, that of my consciousness of being known by another embodied consciousness, and by my awareness of that other's knowing me, while knowing that I am aware of their knowing me. I usually try to think of this as, the guy goes into the bar, and sits on the stool, and tries to look cool. But it's hard for me because I'm so short. And, the bar stools are always so tall. So I if I sit all the way up on the stool, my feet are hanging like this, and I feel like a little kid. And yet you've got to sit at the stool, so I kind of one-cheek it, right? So I look like I'm cool. I'm sitting on the stool, but I'm really trying to keep at least 1 foot on the ground. And then the beautiful young lady walks in, and you're looking at her, and you're thinking, aha, hello, etc. And she's looking at me, and she's like, ugh, that kind of, and I'm trying to convince her that she ought to look at me a little closer, and she's like, no, I'm not interested, you're too ugly, that kind of thing. So I'm aware that another self-consciousness is aware of me, and yet I'm trying to convince that self-consciousness that my view is the dominant view. You ought to believe me that I'm really cool, right? I have an Audi, yeah. I'm also married, even though I never wear a ring. Let's not go there. But you get the idea. I'm trying to convince this person to think of me a certain way. And meanwhile, I know that she thinks of herself a certain way, and she's trying to convince me to think of her as a certain way, that she's not that kind of girl, or that, whatever, right? And yet, the outfit that she's wearing, convinces me, no, wait a minute, your whole outfit tells me your baby here, right? That's the way it looks to the biological me, right? You know what I mean, right? She's wearing an outfit that, looks sexy, right? Looks like Shakira's new outfit on the horse, right? If you're right, who Shakira is? Yes? Maybe everybody knows who Shakira is. How about that? Well, you get the idea. There's this interplay of forces, Hegel says, between these two geists, right? And the one wants to dominate the other. And even if it's just me, and I'm having a decision over whether or not to eat a candy bar or not, right? I might think to myself, that candy bar is fattening, I ought not to eat it. On the other hand, I've eaten thousands of those Snicker bars. I really would like to eat that Snicker bar too. So I have this fight inside myself. Well, one side is going to win. I'm either going to eat the candy bar or not. And that is the dominant, the master of that particular engagement, right? But it goes on then to the next experience and the next experience and so on. In other words, this very complex interplay between two people, between an individual and a whole group, between the assembly and the people that come to watch them every Tuesday, right? Between the mayor and the assembly, right? You have all these different spirits, geists, minds that form even a collective mind, like the United States. You think of it, we have a national mind. We have a zeitgeist. We have the mind of the times. What is it? I mean, you imagine how complex trying to figure it out with all the different people you might include and trying to figure out what's the spirit of the times? What's the Weltgeist? What's the whole world's movement? And for Hegel, that movement is a rational process. In fact, he argues that the real is the rational, and the rational is the real. What on earth does he mean by that? I don't know, but I've run out of time. So I don't know if I helped you or made things worse with trying to do too much all at once. But we'll pick up on Wednesday, and on Wednesday we're going to talk about John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill is going to give us utilitarianism. Utility. And evolution when it applies to ethics. So, any questions? I don't think we'll have anybody coming in right away. If you feel like asking questions, we can stick around for a little bit. I'm still in the introduction. Never even got out of the introduction. I like reading that section though. That's fun.